In today's video, I'll show you how to take a simple wall clock and turn it into a one-of-a-kind home decor accessory. We'll go step by step from the type of clock to the materials, adhesive, and grouting. And of course, it's totally customizable. Let's get to it. Welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Julie. And on this channel, we talk about tips, tricks, tools, adhesives, materials, and specific mosaic projects, all to shorten your learning curve when it comes to creating mosaic art. So if that sounds like liked one on my website but wanted different colors to match her interior decor. We chatted back and forth about specifics on what she was looking for, and I thought it would be good to share those with you because they're a good list to keep in mind should you be thinking about creating a mosaic wall clock of your own. To begin with, I needed to know what size clock was she looking for and what material did she want the clock made of. What color face of the clock did she want? Did she want numbers on the face? And if so, what color numbers and what color hands on the clock? I suggested a glass cover instead of a acrylic or plastic cover because glass works much better in mosaics. We also discussed, did she want it to be battery operated or hardwired? And of course, we talked about what colors and materials did she want her mosaic artwork to be. It's a vague statement, but there are so many clock options out there, and these websites are so sophisticated now that you can fill in the information you want into the filter and you can find the exact clock you're looking for. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Some of the things I'm going to discuss today in this project might surprise some of you, either if you've been following along on this channel or you are a student of mine. Specifically, the material that the clock is made out of and the adhesive that I'm going to use. They're not my usual. However, I have found that over the years, as I've made a number of clocks, this combination works really well and it helps me get the result I'm looking for. So step one of creating a mosaic clock is finding a clock you're happy with. Like I said, enter in all your information into the internet and it will produce so many options that you might even suffer from overwhelm. Let's hope that doesn't happen. You want to take into consideration the list of things that we spoke about a little earlier. So the substrate I'm using today is actually an affordable plastic clock. That's right, plastic. It's a basic white plastic clock. The face is white, the hands are black, the numbers are black, the numbers are simple. It's battery operated and it's self-hanging, which means a hanger is built into the back of the clock. The face of the clock is glass, as I said earlier. You want to steer away from plastic and acrylic whenever possible. I'm not saying you can't make a mosaic clock that has a plastic or acrylic face to it. It's just more challenging, especially when you get to the grouting phase. Acceptable materials for a clock frame would be pretty much the same materials that we would consider for a normal mosaic project. Wood, cement, stone, even metal would work. Step two is super important. It may not be something you think about, but once you are in possession of the clock you're going to mosaic, either plug it into the wall or put batteries in it and see if it works, see if it keeps correct time. Let it run for a little bit just to make sure before you put all this time, energy, and money into mosaicing the frame. Step 3 is also super important, and that is prepping the clock for tiling and grouting. Don't skip this step. And I'll be totally upfront and honest, this takes time. You want to tape up the front, including the open area where the frame meets the glass portion, which covers the face. You don't want any grout or little mosaic shards to get into that space, so tape it up really well. Once you're done with the front, turn it over and tape up the back. Especially tape up the area where the battery compartment and hand controls are. Step 4 is all about the materials. I have always only used solid color ceramic for the clocks that I have made throughout the years. I love the vibrancy of the solid bright colors. Plus, when I'm choosing material, I try to find material that is the same or about the same thickness to each other. Acceptable materials include glass, stone, porcelain, of course ceramic, basically most traditional mosaic materials. Something to keep in mind when selecting your mosaic materials, whatever you choose is obviously adding weight to the clock substrate. Plus, you're adding adhesive and grout. So you want to consider the size of the clock and what it's made out of, plus all of these other items. You don't want to mosaic a self-hanging clock that weighs 20 pounds, especially if the back of the clock is made of a material like plastic that doesn't allow for you to add a heavier hanger. Step 5 is cutting down your materials or your tesserae. The clock I'm making doesn't have a super wide frame, so the curvature is somewhat dramatic. That sounds so dramatic. So that's why I like to keep the pieces the same thickness and general size. I want them to hug the curvature and not shoot out. It also helps keep the design organized and aesthetically pleasing to look at. When determining how big to cut your pieces, you want to take into account if the frame is rounded like mine or flat. Is it symmetrical or asymmetrical? Does it have anything special or unusual about its shape? And how big is it? Step 6 is determining what adhesive you're going to use, and this is partly determined by your tesserae. The surprising adhesive that I'm going to use on my clock is tile adhesive or mastic. Like I said, it's what I've always used on clocks. The ceramic works really well with the plastic clock. It gives me a great tight hold and the result that I'm looking for. Plus, as an added bonus, it doesn't add very much weight to the clock. So I just have to worry about adding the weight of the tesserae and the grout. And because I can't always get ceramic tesserae that are the exact thickness in the color that I'm looking for, the mastic is stiff enough that it allows me to build up these pieces so that it appears that everything is the same thickness on the level, on the surface level of the clock. And for step number 7, we're getting to the good stuff, tiling. And as I mentioned, the frame of this clock is not very wide and sort of has a steep, dramatic curve. And so I've tried to keep my pieces about the same size. No piece is larger than 1/4. With a random design like this, keeping my sizes about the same size allows for consistency in the design, and also no one color will stick out. I like to tile all along the frame and around the curve, not allowing any pieces to go over the frame on the front of the clock or on the back. Now that the clock is tiled, I'll let it sit here for at least 48 hours to dry before I proceed to the grouting. Step 8 is grouting. I've checked my pieces to make sure everything is stuck down and dry, and we are ready. My client picked white grout for this project, and if you'd like to see how I mix up small batches of grout, I'll put a link here in the description card as well as down below so you can check it out. Okay. My grout is mixed, and while I'm waiting for it to be ready, I'll go over the taped areas one more time along the edge where the frame meets the glass, covering the face. My grout is ready. When grouting a clock, I like to try to keep the bulk of the action on the frame of the piece. So I'll grout and tilt the piece to do the best I can to keep the grout away from the opening of the clock face. And even though I've covered up the face of the clock, there's no reason to get grout near there. I'll grout the front of the frame and down along the side. Then in the area where the mosaic is along the face of the clock, I'll create a false edge with the grout while still doing my best to keep the grout away from the opening of the clock face. It doesn't hurt your mosaic to be overly cautious, especially with a piece like this. So I'll continue on with grouting and then let it sit for a few minutes before I start cleaning it off. Step 9 is getting us closer to the big reveal. My clock has been sitting here for about 10 minutes, drying, and now it's ready to be cleaned off. I like to use paper towels when cleaning off grout. I'm not the biggest fan of bringing moisture into that process, but sometimes it's needed. However, in this case, I've been staying with my clock. I see that it's ready to be cleaned, and paper towels will work just fine. I try to be as neat and careful as possible when cleaning off grout on a clock. Remember, this is an electronic device, so I'll take it slower than usual. And as usual, I'll remove the grout in a clockwise, counterclockwise motion, making sure I not only clean off the grout from the moisture surface, but also the back edge of the clock. As you're cleaning off the grout, you want to make sure there is a clean edge between your grouted area and the area where the frame meets the glass on the face. Once I'm done grouting, I like to go over the mosaic with an old paintbrush to clean off any grout dust or small pieces. I'll do this by turning the clock on its side or even upside down. I do spend a bit of time on this, at least 10 minutes. I don't want to risk any grout making its way into the clock. Step 10 is the big reveal, and you want to take this step slow because there may be some grout attached to the painter's tape. I like to find a piece of tape to get started, and that's usually the last piece of tape that I put on. And then I turn the clock over to keep pulling more and more tape off. We're taking advantage of gravity here. Once you've pulled all of the tape off the front, then gently go over it again with a paintbrush. Then slowly start removing tape from the back, gently and slowly. Once all of the tape is removed, go over everything once again with a paintbrush. I then like to take a damp paper towel and go over the back of the clock. And there you have it, a fantastic, colorful, personalized piece of home decor that you created. Question of the day, have you ever created a mosaic clock? And if so, what materials did you use? Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up as it really does help my channel, and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification so you never miss a single upload, and let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like me to cover in a future video. I'll see you soon. Bye. This should be interesting. A wall clock? Really, Julie? A wall clock? Okay. Moving right along. Thicknesses that are about the same thickness. Oh yeah. And because I can't always get we have one more video to shoot today, and the thunderstorm is staying away. Oh, so close, so close, so close. If you're looking for more mosaic inspiration, you can check out one of these two videos. Until then, see ya.